Israel says its armed forces have surrounded Gaza City. Army Chief of Staff for Israel, Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi, stated that troops are deepening infiltration of Hamas-held areas. Soldiers are risking close-quarter fighting in densely populated areas, and they're including underground, which includes underground tunnels and where hostages are also there. Now, here's a look at the grim prospects. The Israeli Army Chief of Staff said, and I'm quoting here, the soldiers are fighting face-to-face with a brutal enemy. Now, this is hand-to-hand combat which they need to prepare for. Israeli military spokesperson Daniel Hagari stated that the concept of a ceasefire is not currently on the table. Now, that is definitely something which has made a lot of minds ask a lot of questions, that if there is no ceasefire, what happens next? Let's take a look at what the statements which are coming in from the other side. The Al-Qassam brigades, the military wing of Hamas, warned Israel that its invading soldiers would go home in black bags. It's a clear threat. Of course, these are visuals of the Israeli military forces which are infiltrating very much into Gaza. Now, a spokesperson warned Gaza will be in the curse of history for Israel. Of course, that's a statement coming in from Hamas. Urban fighting will force combatants into hand-to-hand combat and reduce visibility. Now, the chaos and bloodletting will blur the boundaries between civilians and soldiers. Now, this is where a major concern is coming out, because civilian death toll is expected to increase further due to these circumstances. Urban fighting will also render armored vehicles next to useless. Going house to house to secure potentially booby-trapped buildings means bringing in bomb disposal experts with cumbersome gear like ladders, ropes and explosives. This is going to be a long and difficult war, as Benjamin Netanyahu has been saying ever since they declared war on Hamas. Possibly all while taking fire and in the dark. Now, these are risks that the Israeli army will definitely be facing as they enter Gaza. Given the difficulties of the situational awareness, there are inherent risks of friendly fire as well. Now, you see, friendly fire is when you come under friendly fire during a battle which you accidentally get shot at by people on your own side. When you are in combat in such a densely populated area, the risks of friendly fire go up very, very drastically. Using artillery can make the situation even worse. Why? Because while it may kill some enemies, the chances of collateral damage and civilian deaths is again very high, again because it's a densely populated area, especially in such an area. And the rubble which is caused after the artillery fire, that can be used by militants as cover. So it's a dual damage there. Now, Gaza's narrow web of streets is doubled underground by a dense tunnel network known to Israeli troops as the Gaza Metro. The tunnel system has been one of the most strategic advantages to the Hamas militants, but Israel is now not letting go of those either. Some tunnels are as deep as 100 to 130 feet below the ground, allowing militants to change position away from the danger of strikes. This is going to be an absolute guerrilla warfare scenario, and Hamas knows their territory very well. So it's not as if Israel is going to walk in and go out with a walkover. This is not going to be an easy war. Rocket batteries hidden just a few meters beneath the surface can be uncovered with a trapdoor just for the time it takes to fire a salvo. Now, the civilian hostages Hamas seized present another complication for the Israeli Defense Forces. Irked over perceived government and intelligence failure, many Israelis feel the establishment failed to ensure their security and must now bring the hostages back. Will Israel be able to bring the hostages back? Of course, that is a question which will be answered only by the Israeli Defense Forces in times to come. Now, for more on this, we are joined live by Lester Munson, who is a senior fellow at the National Security Institute and a principal international at BGR Group, which is a leading government relations firm in Washington, D.C. Mr. Munson, welcome to World DNA.
Thanks for having me.
Mr. Munson, let's start off with this. Now, the Israeli military has surrounded Gaza City and is pressing forward. They are not backing off for sure. Ceasefire is not on the cards at all. And Gazan citizens are still stuck in the city with nowhere to go. Now, it is a difficult situation, no doubt. What do you feel can be the possible outcomes going forward?
Well, let's just be clear. Israel has been warning of this attack for almost a month and asking people to vacate Gaza City and move to the south of the Gaza Strip. So there's been plenty of time for people to leave. It is unfortunate for those who either chose to stay or were compelled to stay, perhaps by Hamas. What will the future hold? This conflict, it's going to be, as you described earlier, grisly urban fighting, likely to last for weeks, perhaps even months. It will likely be door to door. It will be extremely unpleasant, particularly for those who live in Gaza. The goal of Israel is to eradicate Hamas and basically prevent any other attack like that which happened on October 7th against the Israeli people from ever happening again. That means Israel is going to have to dismantle Hamas's terrorist infrastructure. That means destroying tunnels, eliminating weapons, and all of the Hamas fighters that are able to be located and eliminated. So that's going to take some time. It is unfortunate. There's a lot of discussion and diplomacy surrounding providing assistance to innocent civilians. Let us hope that that proceeds in a way that is effective and reasonable given the current circumstances.
Right. Mr. Amundsen, talking about international diplomacy here, we also know that Antony Blinken is going to be in Israel today. This is going to be his third visit since the war broke out. From what we do understand, the aim is to discuss the hostage situation, the release of the hostages, and as well as to discuss ways to minimize harm on Gaza civilians. What do you expect from this meeting? What can we expect?
Well, it's unclear to me if there'll be anything that can be announced immediately following the meetings that the Secretary of State is having. There are a lot of discussions behind the scenes between Israelis, Qataris, presumably with Hamas through Qatar. These discussions have not produced much so far. There have been really a handful of hostages that have been returned. I think it is unlikely that many of those hostages are still alive. I think it is unlikely that we are going to see them returned. I am very sad to say that, but it does not seem like a realistic possibility to me. In terms of humanitarian assistance, some humanitarian assistance has been provided to Gaza through the border with Egypt. So negotiations with Egypt must also be part of this calculus. The U.S. is providing financial support for a lot of these activities, but it remains a very complex situation on the ground in terms of who is allowing what. Secretary of State has shown a real commitment to this issue. There is no doubt. This is his third trip. He's met with just about everyone who will meet with him in the region several times to try and work out the best possible solution. So this is an ongoing effort. I expect he'll have to make more trips.
Mr. Musin, now Israel and Hezbollah have been trading fire in the northern front. We just read about another attack which has happened in the last few hours. Houthis also declared their attack against Israel all the way from Yemen. Now, are non-state actors pushing this into a larger regional conflict?
Well, they're trying to, and let's remember that Hezbollah in Lebanon and the Houthis in Yemen are clients of Iran. Iran is the backer of Hamas as well. So while there are some non-state actors that are critical here, it is the terrorist supporting government of Iran that is the real driver for a lot of these activities. The Biden administration had been in conversations indirectly with the Iranian government over the nuclear file for the last couple of years. There are channels, diplomatic channels, to attempt to resolve things. It does not appear to me that's been going very well. On the other hand, we have not seen full-fledged war except in Gaza. While there have been exchanges of fire in the north of Israel with Hezbollah, that happens on a regular basis, even without the war in Gaza. So we do expect this big speech on Friday today from the leader of Hezbollah. I don't know what he is going to say. It may be a dramatic announcement. It may not. I expect there'll continue to be a kind of low-level conflict in that region for some time.
All right, Mr. Musin, thank you so much for joining in on World DNA, sharing all your insights on this.
Thank you.